His Excellency, and my colleagues and friends from Chinese Embassy, President of and Chairman of CAB, and the members of CAB, my colleagues from the Government of Bangladesh, friends and family members from private sector and the media. Ni hao. So my daughter has been teaching me Mandarin. So she's bilingual. She speaks Bengali and English, and we've sent her to a Chinese school now, because we think that's the only other language she probably needs to know to be able to survive in the 2050s of the world. So the new words that I've learned yesterday, I'm just going to try to see if that works. She says that these words are interesting. She says that I need to know. One is wasai, apparently means wow. And then there's another word called, she says it's very well used in social media, called liu liu liu. Means very cool. So, anyway, so look, I've been very lucky to travel with the chief advisor to China when we met the Honorable President in China. And one of the takeaways from that was we should at least be China once a quarter as Investment Development Authority. So we're trying to do that now. We are actually about to travel to China towards the middle of this month to, again, promote investment into Bangladesh and work as close as possible with the Chinese investment community. As the Honorable and our friend Ambassador had mentioned, that China is definitely, in our opinion, the most likely biggest investor for Bangladesh in coming years and days. And that trend is very clear, even from the government of Bangladesh's side.
Design, elegance, beauty.
সেরা পণ্য সবার জন্য
Jevico.
So to be able to do that, we definitely need to help the potential Chinese investors feel a lot better about Bangladesh. And there's nobody else better than CEAB to be able to do that for us. They are in a very special place. They can bridge the gap between the potential investors and our country. They are definitely also in a position of trust. So something that CEAB says to Chinese investors is far more valuable and useful for Chinese investors relative to what we say to them. And from the report, I take there are multiple beneficiaries from the report. One, first of all, thank you to CAB for reaffirming the commitment that they have. These existing investors in Bangladesh, they have for our country. This is clearly an example of that. But at the same time, this works as a very good tool for the incoming investors to consider where are the areas they should be looking at to do more business in Bangladesh. And then for government of Bangladesh, this is a very useful piece of report. We can go back and figure out how we could be a lot more friendlier for our Chinese counterparts. There were 8 sectors covered today, so I would generally divide them into 2 groups. One is the core infrastructure piece, where these are the foundational factors that need to be ticked off if we would like to become the China of 2040. And for us to be there, the road infrastructure, the rail, the ports that were talked about, I think we covered power and energy as well. So these are general core infrastructure items that any investor who will walk into Bangladesh would expect to be ready to go in a plug-and-play mode to do business here. And on the other side, they've covered the likes of textile and garments, they've covered digital economy, the sectors where clearly we have a comparative advantage as a country, which also came up, if you recall, when BIDA published its FDI heat map, where BIDA thinks the investment should flow in. We also mentioned these industries as the primary. So it's great to see also there's a convergence of opinion in terms of where we think Chinese investment is going to flow and where government of Bangladesh should be able to provide more support into. We talked about the economic zones, obviously, another foundational infrastructure that needs to take place and needs to be completed as soon as possible. We have a tendency of promising things but not delivering in the government, but we are trying to change that attitude and culture. and hopefully you will see significant movement in not only the Chinese Special Economic Zone, but also the agrivoltaic project we're looking in Chatpo with China. Also, there's a second economic zone conversation in Mongla. So all these things should start moving in a very positive direction very soon. One of the takeaways from the China trip was also that we might consider opening up a BIDA office in China. So that would be the first BIDA outpost for government of Bangladesh, and we genuinely firmly believe that the first one should probably be in China. In addition to all of these that we talked about, I think I would really like to touch upon two items that did not get covered here, but is probably worth keeping in mind, and I know that His Excellency is also very firm on it, which is the cultural integration piece. My genuine feeling is that a lot of countries who have done very well in bilateral trade and investment, they have somehow managed to find a place where they could culturally integrate. I know there is a conversation going on about having a Chinese cultural center at some point. I'm really looking forward to, so I used to, as you probably know, I used to live in London and Singapore before, and Chinatowns were one of my favorite places to go. And we still don't have a proper Chinatown in Dhaka. That I think that's a loss for our country and our city. So we need to definitely put a Chinatown in place. And the final thing I would say is, obviously we've talked about human capital in our country. We have a very young workforce. So how could we make sure that the Chinese companies that are growing globally, not only in China but also the rest of the world, how we can send more of our young talents, whether it's in the ICT sector all the way down to construction, how could we export our young workforce into these Chinese companies? That's something that we would like to cover a lot. But in summary, look, thank you again to CAB for kindly arranging this event, kindly preparing the report. The attendance from so many ministries, I think, speaks the volume that the level of interest government of Bangladesh has about our relationship with China and the value we put on it. So I cannot wait to see a room double this size in a few years' time, where we just cannot accommodate Chinese investors in Bangladesh anymore. So I'm really looking forward to it. And that meeting, I'll try to be very fluent in Chinese. Thank you very much.